Welcome to Monday. This will be the math e-learning for today. This will cover the Google Classroom assignment, page 149, numbers 10 through 15. We're going to be looking at a few skills together, and then you'll try some on your own, the same skills on your own. We'll be looking at the distributive property, dividing mixed numbers, least common multiples, commutative property of multiplication, algebraic expressions, and the order of operations, also known as PEMDAS. So feel free to use this as much as you can. Pause it where you need to, rewatch where you need to. The first problem I want to look at is number 10. And this is asking us to use the distributive property to simplify the expression x and then in parentheses y plus z. So to use the distributive property, the first thing we need to do is rewrite the problem. X and then in parentheses y plus z. Now remember, what they're asking us to do in the distributive property is to multiply the letter that's on the outside times the first number, or in this case the first letter. So x times y is xy. Remember that when two letters are next to each other, it means they're being multiplied. Then we drop the plus sign, and then we multiply the first letter times the last letter. So in this case, x times z, which is xz. So this is the example to use for number 10. If you're using the distributive property, you just multiply the outside letter times both of the letters that are on the inside that are being added together. Okay, let's move on to number 11. Number 11 is asking us to divide mixed numbers. So remember, we cannot divide mixed numbers. We need to change everything into a fraction first. So I'm going to rewrite the problem. And remember, the way that I change a mixed number into a fraction is to multiply the denominator times the whole number, and then I add that to the numerator. So if I do that for both, I have 8 times 4, which is 32, plus the 7 on the top is 39. And the denominator stays the same. And then the same thing happens on 9 1/3. I multiply the 3 times the 9, which is 27, plus the top, the numerator, which is 28. Now I get to use my keep, change, flip method that we have been talking about. So the first step is to keep the first fraction, change the division into multiplication, and then flip. I flip the second fraction upside down. So the 3 goes on top, the 28 goes on the bottom. And in this case, that's all they're looking for, is for us to set it up to go from a division problem and turn it into a multiplication problem. So that is the example for number 11. Let's move on to number 12. Okay, on number 12, they are asking for the least common multiple for 4 and 6. So what I want to do is list the multiples for 4 and 6 and try to find what's the smallest multiple that they have in common. So listing out the first maybe 5 multiples of each would be a good idea. So 4 times 1 is 4, 4 times 2 is 8, 4 times 3 is 12, 4 times 4 is 16, 4 times 4 is 20. Same thing for 6. 6 times 1 is 6, 6 times 2 is 12, 6 times 3 is 18, 6 times 4 is 24, 6 times 5 is 30. Okay, now I want to look for the smallest number, the smallest multiple they have in common, and I can see right here that it's 12. So the LCM or least common multiple, is 12. So this is your example for number 12, that the least common multiple for 4 and 6 would be 12. Okay, let's move on to number 13. 13 is asking us to use the commutative property. Okay, so the commutative property, they want us to solve 20 times 12 inside of the parentheses times 5. Now remember, the commutative property means I do not need to multiply in any particular order. As long as all I'm doing is multiplying, I don't have to do it in any particular order. I can move the parentheses around, or I can move the order of the numbers. So in this case, I know that I would rather multiply 20 times 5 first and then multiply by 12. So what I've done is I have switched the order, the 12 and the 5. I moved those around, and because of the commutative property I can do that. So I would rather multiply 20 times 5 because I know very easily 20 times 5 is 100. And then I can still multiply by 12, and it's very easy to multiply 100 times 12 because I know anytime I multiply by 100 I just add 2 zeros behind it. So in this case it's 12, and then I put the 2 zeros from the 100 behind it, and I have my solution using the commutative property. So it's 1,200. Okay, let's move on to the next one. This one is number 14, and they want us to solve 9x plus 4y, and they're telling us that x equals 5 and y equals 6. So the first thing I need to do is to rewrite the problem, and wherever I see an x I'm going to put a 5 instead. Wherever I see a y I'm going to put a 6 instead. So here goes. Now remember that whenever you see a number and a letter next to each other, that means they're being multiplied. So that's why I put the multiplication symbol in between each. Now I just simplify. 9 times 5 is 45. I drop the plus sign, and then I multiply 4 times 6, which is 24. And then I simply add those two together. So if I do a little side addition problem here, 5 plus 4 is 9, 4 plus 2 is 6, so my answer is 69. Okay, let's move on to the next one. This is going to be number 15, and they are asking us to use the order of operations, also known as PEMDAS, to solve this expression. And they're giving us the expression is 2 times 12 minus 8 divided by 2 squared. Okay, so to do this problem, we're just going to rewrite the problem. 2 times 12 minus 8 divided by 2 squared. Now on the side, I'm going to write PEMDAS, so I don't forget that I need to do each of those letters. Okay, so my first thing that I want to look at is to see if there's any parentheses. I don't see any parentheses, so I'll put a check next to the P to show that I've already checked for parentheses and there aren't any. Okay, exponents is the E. I do see that this right here is an exponent, so I'm going to do that first. I'm going to drop everything else down and only do the 2 squared. So everything else gets dropped, and of course 2 squared is 4. Okay, so exponents are done. Next, I have multiplication or division. I see multiplication right here, so I'm going to do that first. 2 times 12 is 24, minus 8. Oh, then this is also division, so I will do that as well. 8 divided by 4 is 2. So I've done multiplication and I've done division. Now I can move on to the last step, which is addition or subtraction. I see that there is subtraction. 24 minus 2 is 22. So using PEMDAS, I have solved this expression. I put a check mark next to each letter as I went through it. Okay, so now it's your turn to try this on your own. Page 149, numbers 10 through 15. This is a Google Classroom assignment. You can go to the Google form and fill out your answers after you work them out on paper. If you have any questions, please let me know. Also, please use this video as much as you would like. Go back to a skill that maybe doesn't make sense. Okay, have a great day.